Welcome back to a brand new video here on Off Scratch. As always, welcome to the channel and don't forget to check out our website. That is where you can get some comprehensive plans to improve your golf. Okay, now today we're talking hips, and this is sort of the bizarre action of the feet that actually impacts how much we turn the hips.
Yeah, and I think one thing most people probably don't realise, because it's something you never really taught, and most golfers don't realise, the feet and the hip are connected via the leg bones. So what your feet do affects what your hips do.
Okay, so what I see most commonly, whether that's us walking down here at the beach, at the range, or out on the golf course, is people actually stood to the ball like this, because that would be normal, right? Keep everything sort of at 90 degrees to our ball to target line. So you can see this from the player cam perspective. As I'm looking down here, like my toes are sort of pointed straight. Now, I would encourage you, and that will give us the actual reason, sciencey reason why, in a second, just to move your hips. They should feel, yeah, you can move them, but maybe a little bit of restriction.
Yeah,
why would that be the case?
A little bit limited. So I think one of the key mistakes most golfers make is that they stand what we would call as a bit too internally. So the toes, if you think big toes are pointing inwards. So what that does is it's already turned the femur slightly internal in the pelvis.
And we want to be making that move in the backswing, right?
That's the move we want to try and make in the backswing. So if you're already halfway there, it's very difficult to get there because you started there, if that makes sense. You don't have room to grow in the movement.
Whereas what we're suggesting, if we sort of flare those feet, and how I think about this, Nat, you made a great point. If the big toes are pointing inwards and they sort of meet around about the ball, that's when they're going to be very limited. Because as Nat said there, like we're already in that action that we're trying to make. But what I want you to try and feel is, and looking at this from the player cam perspective, is you might feel like you're a bit silly here, a bit sort of flared too much. But let's feel like, imagine the golf ball was 12 o'clock on the clock face, left toe at 10, right toe at 2, and now do that same motion at, like, I really feel I've got a lot of ability, or mobility I should say. Yeah,
definitely, because you're allowing your body and your pelvis to make that movement. So if I stand a little, for me, I think 5 to 1 is like optimum. I've got quite small feet and quite high arches, which is not a biomechanical advantage. So if you're one of those people,
you know Nat's feet now.
Have a look at your feet. So 5 to 1 on the clock face for me is about optimum. I think a good little drill you can do is, like you said, as you start to turn, can you keep the big toe on the ground? What we don't want to see is if people start here, they start rotating, they're stuck, and the feet start flaring out and they start swaying laterally with the pelvis. We know a bit of sway is fine as long as you can recover it, but we're trying to get people to optimize that movement, and it's such a minor little detail, but it does make a big difference.
Very, very minor. So I'm going to hit one away here with my wedge, but you do this with your wedge to start with, then build into 7-iron, then maybe your hybrid, and finally into your driver. I honestly feel like just a little bit of a tweak like this. I mean, I've done this all the time, and people have commented to me before, Alex, why'd you kick your foot out? Well, simply, I really just feel that I can turn those hips so much easier through that golf ball. Now, also, Nat, I've got a little bit of a trick here.
Okay.
So you mentioned this, and it's a really good point right at the start. Kicking that right toe in limits how much this turn. Okay, we all know the half shot is literally the one that we hate when we're pitching. 50 yards roughly, let's say.
Anything 50 to 70, like what do you do with it?
Yeah, it's a bit too far for a full lob wedge, and half shot is always hard because you feel like, oh, I'm rushing this downswing. Well, a little trick to guarantee a half swing, we can use this to our advantage. Now have a look what I've done there, Nat. Like, I've kicked it in. I know it looks a bit bizarre, that's why we sort of named the video the way we did, but I can't go much further than that because my hips aren't turning, and therefore my torso can't go any further and add in that rotation. So play around with, ball towards the back of your stance, kick the right toe in, and just look at that half shot just becomes so much easier because you've not got the body ability to ride that swing a little bit longer.
It's a lot more controlled, that, isn't it? Because I suppose one thing I always try and think of is like my positions for pitching, or like where is that club face relative to my body?
100%.
And that's quite an easy one to like marry up the two.
100%. So if you did that with every single one of your wedges, try it, and you'll gain that sort of 50-yard shot, whether that be with your 50, your 54, even your wedge. I think it's a great little trick. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.